Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny with Right Word Express. Joining me today is Domenic Melillo. He is the fantastic author of the Swords of Valor series, Einstein's Desk, and A Major League Glove. Hi, how are you, Domenic?
I'm great, Jenny. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. A little bit about myself. I'm 63 years old, um, retired in April,
Nice,
but not, but,
congratulations.
but not really, not really. I thought I was retiring, but I'm not. It's hard to sit still. Um, I'm actually a lifelong mortgage banker.
Okay.
I've been in the mortgage business for years. Um, I'm a graduate of Villanova University, as you can see from my jersey in the back, where I actually did play baseball at Villanova, which is part of what's in the book, A Major League Glove.
Mhm.
I'm married, got 4 children, 3 grandchildren.
Congrats.
Yeah, so not sure what else you need to know about me. I'm a huge physics geek. If you look up on my shelf over here, I've got lined up with physics books.
Mhm.
And then the shelf above that is poetry books.
Perfect, well balanced.
And then over there, I've got my bat signal kind of going up on the wall. So I'm a big Batman fan too.
Nice, good. I have a good friend who's also a huge Batman fan, and he had his office was his Bat cave, and I had all his Batman stuff up.
Yep.
Um, so how did you get into writing? You were in mortgage banking and played baseball. So how did writing come about?
So I've been interested in reading my whole life. I've been a reader since I was a child, and my mother, I used to bribe, my mother would make us go to bed, believe it or not, at 8:30. Uh, and in the summer times it was still sunny. The sun was still up, so I would bribe her if I could stay up an extra half hour if I would read. So I would read in bed.
Yeah.
My mom was a big reader, and my dad used to actually read poetry to us
Mhm.
um, at night. Sometimes he had an old poetry anthology book from high school,
Mhm.
and he loved so many of the poets in there, the poems. You know, I wrote some of the names down here, if I could remember them. Edgar Lee Master and Robert Frost and Eugene Field. Edna St. Vincent Millay, and he would read us the poems, and he would explain them to us.
Mhm.
What was the meaning behind them? And he did it with such animation and such enthusiasm that I was hooked. So I enjoyed reading poetry and all sorts of books. Then when my first son was born, um, I wrote a poem about it, kind of just out of that fatherly enthusiasm and in the moment. And then it kind of grew from there. I was encouraged to keep track, to keep a journal, to write down every day. So Joe, any of my other kids when they were little would do some funny things, and I would write them down. And then my wife encouraged me to turn those into to poems or short stories or kind of a children's book. So I would do some of that type of writing and collected them over the years for about 30 years.
Mhm.
Um, and then, you know, at one point, my wife encouraged me to publish them. So I'd self-published my collection of poems
Mhm.
in a book called Safe at Home.
Yes.
And at the same time, I had written a children's story called The Journey to the Land of Old Asia. And it was a Christmas quest
Yeah.
to be read at Christmas time. So that's kind of how it started. Went from there. And then after those two were out, again, encouraged by my wife to write something else. So started my first, novel, and then that turned into a trilogy and just kind of went from there.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And that's something that I've noticed a lot of writers say is you can't write if you don't read. It's just a prerequisite. If you don't read, writing's not going to work for you. So it's awesome to have that base and that love and to not necessarily go into it saying, oh, I'm going to be a writer, but go into it saying, I love these words and I love what they mean. And so that's
Love this, the sound of them, the rhythm of them, the way they flow. One of the most exciting things, I get butterflies in my stomach when I start reading a book and it starts to pull me along. You know, like that momentum starts and you just kind of keep going. The stories that stump me, and I'm not that good writing detail. There are some books where I get bogged down in the details, you know, the minute description of the flowers or the
it's hard
you know,
not
the
to, they're
grass.
beautiful.
You know, and it is, I mean, it's beautiful. And if, you know, but it's the same reason I don't like walking through an art museum, because I'll keep walking and I like seeing all of it, but I don't want to just get stuck somewhere. So I like to write things that pull the reader along, draw them along with, you know, kind of big momentum.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So your latest project, A Major League Love, that came out a few months ago, right? Can you tell us about that?
It actually came out on Valentine's Day.
Perfect.
Yeah, February 14th. And it's my first love story that I've written. You know, and it's so hard in this day and age that, you know, everybody thinks of it that as a romance novel.
Right.
You know, and I think there's a significant difference between romance novels and a love story. You know, I loved you know, the Notebook, right, and some of all the other books
Right.
like that. I think are love stories because they really get to the heart of the relationship between two people and the inner feelings and the inner thoughts. So that's what I wanted to do with A Major League Love. I'm an old baseball player. I love poetry. My wife is from the South. So putting all of them together into A Major League Love and melding it all together, you know, it's a book about, it's a love story primarily about two people, but big components of the book are baseball and poetry. And I don't know, other than maybe Casey at the Bat, I'm not sure that there are many other books that combine poetry and baseball, but maybe a little bit if you think about Bull Durham, but they recited poetry to each other a little bit.
Right. That's fantastic. I like how you combined your loves into another love. That's, you know, it, my words just left my head.
That's
But
okay. I can fill in some words if you want.
oh, perfect. But yeah, we just put our loves all together and just love what we do.
Well, you know, that's kind of, for me, that's a critical part of my writing. Like in the trilogy that I wrote, Swords of Valor trilogy,
Yeah.
there's so much in there that is drawn from my real life and my family,
Yes.
the characters, what they do. But I turned it all around. It's kind of like an alternative history of my family. So what if one day, you know, I woke up and my father told me, everything you know about me is kind of not all there is, and here's the real truth, and here's who we are as a family, and here's your assignment.
Right.
So it was that kind of stuff that I always have fun with. A Major League Love is a kind of another thought process that I went through about, you know, the fictional character Luca. He's playing baseball at Villanova University, and you know, he's dating someone, and he's got this whole life ahead of him. What happens? What decisions does he make? Does he go one way and, you know, kind of repair the relationship, or does he let the relationship go? And what happens when he takes that other path, and where does that draw him? You know, and then there's these forks in the road throughout the book where you know, he's making choices, and it's all about you know, what can happen if you just kind of, and then sometimes life makes choices for you.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and then you have to deal with that. And what do you do if your life doesn't end up the way that you thought it would, you know, and
right.
There's no one to blame but yourself, or circumstances or situations, you know, and can happiness come from that?
Right.
You know, the idea of Major League Love, the words, the title came from the idea that in the book, at some point there's a conversation, and between Luca and Sammy Joe, and she's telling him, uh, he's worried about living a minor league life.
Right.
Not that he's in the minor leagues, but his life never gets to that major league level. And she just says, I'm sorry, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As long as you have a major league love, everything's good.
Exactly. Life usually doesn't take the turns we thought it would. If we all went with our first grade dream of, teacher says, what career are you going to have? And what are you going to do with your life? We'd all be firemen and doctors.
It's funny. Somebody asked me that the other day, and I had that. Honestly, my answer was if at 10 or 11, 12 years old, if I could have made a choice, I would have been an archaeologist on Mars.
Yeah.
Because I mean, 1967, 68, 69 was all about space travel, the moon landings, right?
Yeah.
And I also had a ridiculously deep interest in archaeology at that age. But I don't know why, but I did. So I would have been a space-born archaeologist.
Which is a fantastic dream. Someone will do that someday. But at the same time, life as it is now is pretty darn good.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd be a mortgage banker, but that's been okay too.
Good. I'm glad it's been okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take this little box, and inside it are a bunch of questions, which just lumped out on my lap.
There used to be a bunch of questions.
So we're going to see what ones come out and have you answer them.
Oh boy.
Leave the ones on the floor down there. Apparently,
seriously,
the ones on the floor shouldn't be asked.
Can I say pass if I don't want to answer the question?
Possibly. I might give you pass. I might force you to answer. We'll see.
Okay.
Quickly before we start, I'm going to go pass the toddler off to the older kid. 1 second.
No worries.
All right, so let's get on with the questions. Ooh, this is a tough one. Okay. Which of your characters is your favorite? Which are you least likely to get along with? And this is probably going to be hard because, as you said, you've based a lot of your characters on family members.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's interesting. So does it have to be in the current book or any of my writings?
Any of your writings.
Okay. So I think my favorite character is Sammy Joe in the current book.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it starts out that you're writing about a 15-year-old girl, and I couldn't be further from a 15-year-old girl. But gosh, I felt like I knew her heart right from the start. She's a little bit of a mixture of my sister, my daughters, my wife. All of them are kind of wrapped up, in that personality of Sammy Joe. And I just, the more I wrote about her, the more I liked her.
Yeah.
The more and as a writer, sometimes you don't want to just create a one-dimensional character, right? So, what's the bad part about her? What is, and so I tried to show some of her not, angelic sides, but even that I ended up having to redeem them somehow, where she kind of came to. So I really like Sammy Joe. Obviously, if you've read the trilogy, the character that I would least get along with would be Azazel, who is the fallen angel, the Watcher, who is the evil character in the trilogy.
Yeah.
He's evil.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember reading through it and I was like, dang. Some of these things, but it was great. It was great. Totally moved the story along. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that last book, again, there's family members, they're fictionalized versions of my family members, but a lot of my family history is in that. Meaning, for example, when we go through who the different families in the Guardians, right? There's an Italian part, comes from Italy and Rome, Cincinnatus, and he's the one ancestor, and the other one is the Celtic side, Joseph of Arimathea, whatever, and they all come together. But my godson Billy read the trilogy in 3 days. He read one book a day for 3 days, and he said by the end that he got there at the end when there's that final battle. He's like, Uncle Don, because he texted me. He said, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" He said, "I can't believe what happened. What happened in that?" He goes, "My whole body's vibrating. I was just so caught up in it." So yeah. So just what happens to Azazel is appropriate. So
Awesome. Sounds great. I'm glad he had that reaction. That is so fun to have that reaction from readers, and especially from ones you're close to, and just be like, yes, did so good.
yeah. Yep.
Yep. The Fates just want to know more about your family. This one says, what do your friends and family think of your writing?
Oh, well, it's interesting. And so many, I would say half of the family loves it. They stay, they can't wait till the next one comes out. They read it right away. And then the other half, they've got, they don't have time for it, right? They've got family, they've got kids, they've got school, they're lawyers and, teachers, and they're like, oh, Uncle Dominic, I'll get to him someday, just stop asking. I'm like, but you're in the book. You have to read it.
You have to tell me if you approve of yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking maybe they're better off not reading it, because then they won't be mad at me. But yeah, so I think they've been very, very supportive. I think they kind of were aware of my interest, but I think they're just really surprised at the number of books so far that have come out in a short period of time. So, but that's all because I got a great editor.
Oh, well, thank you.
Working on me, or else I couldn't get it done so quickly.
Well, you do the hard part. I mean, you're the one diving in, doing the research and setting up the story. I cannot set up stories in my mind for the life of me. Like if someone was like, you have to make up a story now, or I'm going to burn your house down, I'd be like, get everyone out of the house. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Know?
Well, for me, it's again, I build most of my stories around what if. And I ask myself, and I ask myself that question, what if, and then I pick, a topic, I mean, what if this instead of this? And then you can go, it's fun. Your imagination just goes from there. But, as I was writing these books, and I did most of the writing, after dinner, I'd come up, get some, work emails out of the way, and then, be up in the office for 2 or 3 hours. And I would think I know what I was writing that night. And then things change, as you're writing, as you're telling yourself the story, there's a mechanism that your brain doesn't stop creating just because you're recording it or you're writing it down, right? So I don't like having hard fixed outlines. I like general, kind of where the story is going outline, and I can fill in stuff in between. And candidly, for example, in the Swords of Valor trilogy, the last book on that one, I had no idea that the book was going to end that way. I kind of knew that there would be this battle and that whatever, but how it ended and how it just circled right back around to the beginning, I didn't know that till I was actually writing it. So it's pretty cool. It's a great process. It's so amazing. It's awesome. An amazing process. I just love it. It's addicting to write, to be able to write like that.
That is amazing. Are you working anything right now what do you got going?
Yeah, so I actually, it's going to be a while before the next book comes out, because I am writing a sequel to Einstein's Desk.
Okay, yeah.
And if you recall that book, it was very technical, a lot of physics,
Yes.
a lot of brain science, um, and a lot of intrigue and a lot of different characters. So, right now I've kind of been through 2 or 3 iterations of where we're going to go with the book
Okay.
and what has to happen. Um, but when I'm doing that in collaboration with my brother, um, it slows down the process a little bit because you got 2 people involved. But that's my next choice. Of course, something else could pop up, and I might have to end up doing working on 2 stories at the same time, because I kind of am. There's a prequel for the trilogy that, again, I've got half outlined, and a few other concepts that are just kind of out there somewhere. But I think, as far as a Major League Love goes, and by the way, that's kind
Oh,
of
it
the
looks
book,
beautiful.
right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be a follow-up to that. I think that's just a standalone story. I don't know, I don't want to take it anywhere else for that. But so, yeah, I've got a few ideas that I'm working on, and I'm working on my next CD, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it.
So I work with a high school buddy who has spent his life. He's a musician, a pianist, one of those child prodigy geniuses
Yeah.
that we went to high school with. And he takes my poems and turns them into songs. So
That's fantastic.
so I'm working. That's kind of taking up a lot of time right now, actually. So
well, good. What is your friend's name? So we can.
John Clancy.
John Clancy.
Yeah, John Clancy. Again, like I said, mind-blowingly talented pianist. Been out on the West Coast for years. He had finally come back east. We were able to get together and do some work, some collaboration. But now he's back out on the West Coast, so it's slowing down all of our work. But yeah, and actually, so John does most of the writing of the music, and I work with my niece Ellis Melillo. She's a singer-songwriter, and she's written a number of songs with me too. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's fun. Good to be retired.
When you're retired, you have all the time to do all the stuff that you couldn't do when you were doing mortgage banking,
At least I won't feel guilty about taking the time to do it. Yes.
Yes. I get that. I totally get that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So this question says, what do you love most about the writing process?
Again, what I love most about the writing process is that it's not straight line, that I surprise myself. And I love that. It makes me laugh. It makes me get so excited. There's something that says, there was a quote, again, I'm terrible with this. I don't remember who it is, but said there's, no tears in the writer, no tears in the reader, right? So if you don't make yourself cry with what you're doing, or if you don't make yourself laugh, if you don't make yourself, excited, your heart doesn't pound while you're writing it, you're not going to get that in a reader, right? So I love that process because it's like imparting your emotions to someone else. Yes. So you're sitting there, and have you ever done this where you've written something and then you're watching someone else read what you wrote, to see them reading their face for their reactions, and I'm like, oh please, come on, just tear up just a little bit, please, just
the worst ones are the stone-faced nothing readers.
Yeah, or if they're like, I'm like, oh crap. So but I love that. I love the surprise. And I know it's probably not, most writers would probably say, if you're surprising yourself, then you didn't plan it out, right? You're not planning well. And I'm like, well, yes and no. I mean, you may think you're going to go in some direction, but the story takes you somewhere else. So many nights I'd write something, and I'm like, oh, I gotta, shut down the computer, save my work, and then run downstairs and like wake my wife up and say, honey, you can't believe where this story just went. You cannot believe what just happened. I just killed this guy. And she's like, no, you didn't kill him. I'm like, yeah, he had to go.
I liked that one.
I know. Um,
Yeah.
so I love that it surprises me
Mhm. That
while
is
I'm doing it.
absolutely fantastic. Do you ever like find yourself in your office laughing or screaming or crying or something, and someone comes in and is like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah, yeah. Shh, you're gonna wake up the baby. You're gonna stop because
Sorry.
my grandson he naps during the day in the room next to me. So I have to be a little bit careful I don't wake him up.
Yeah, that's tough. That is so tough. Okay, I'm gonna ask one more, okay?
Okay.
See what we got. Not that one. It asks about your day job. You're retired.
No, we don't need that.
Okay, what genre do you most like to read?
Hmm. Um, so that's pretty easy. Um, I read adventure fiction, Steve Berry, James Rollins, um, uh, Preston and Child. I don't know if you know any of their work. Their work, the Pendergast series. Um, so, and the thing, so it's kind of it's adventure, historical fiction type stuff. I love reading stories where I learn something that I didn't know before.
Mhm.
Um, Steve Berry and James Rollins. There's always a twist in something. They're like some historical thing that you didn't know, but somebody's now learned the secret, and now they're going to blow the world up because of it. Something like that.
Yeah.
So really kind of historical fiction, adventure stuff. I'm drawn to. Um, I don't read much in the way of biographies, although I used to do that a lot. And then science fiction and time travel
Mhm.
are huge, huge for me.
They're so fun.
Um, yeah, I I do. My wife says you're not writing another one with time travel in it, are you?
You're
Because
like, maybe.
yeah, because the Swords of Valor trilogy has there's time travel. There
Right.
had to be. It wasn't my fault. That's it
It's
has to
how it
be in the
works.
book. And Einstein's desk has it too, but that's the core of it. That's why the story is there because
Yeah.
it has to be addressed. So I think she's fearful that I'm going to write another one with it in it, but I probably will because I do. I just am drawn to it. I love again about the possibilities, the what ifs. I love reading alternative history too.
Mhm.
There was a book I read called The Berlin Project
Oh yeah.
recently, and it was about you know if um, if we had developed the atomic bomb, you know, uh, the nuclear bomb before we did,
Mhm.
slightly before, and instead of using it in Japan, would we have used it on Berlin?
Right.
And so there's a whole alternative timeline, history that takes place. Everything seems exactly the same up to that point. When that happens, now what would the world have been? How would World War II have evolved after that? And what would have happened? So I love that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting to think about. Just all the possibilities. So.
Did you know that in 1913, and this could be this is another outline that I've got half written, that in 1913 in Vienna, Austria, Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Sigmund Freud, um, oh my gosh, I'm going to space on this. There were like two or three other all the people who would become like this massive, the influences on the 20th century.
Mhm.
World War One, World War Two, World War Three. I mean, not World War Three, but I mean, like everything after that. Um, I've written about World War Three, so I got to forget that's not real. Um, but they were all in Vienna, Austria, at the same time in 1913.
Hmm.
So, what if?
Ah.
Right, answer that question. If you have all of these key players about in world history, Karl Marx, Stalin, all of them there at the same time. Did they meet each other? Did they run into each other unknowingly at the cafes or bars? Did they run in the same circles? And what would happen if someone from the future who knew that all of those people were in that city at the same time?
Mhm.
What could happen? What would you do? Would you
Mm.
do something proactive to try to change history from that point on?
But then what effects would that have?
I don't know. Got to make it up.
Ah, okay. Well, on that note, we'll give you some time to make it up so we can read it.
Yeah.
Uh, Thank you so much for joining us today, Dominic. I can't talk.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's why I'm letting you talk. That's the
It's
interviewer's
okay.
job, is to let the other person talk.
That's right. Frame the questions.
Yes. So everyone who's watching this, you can find Dominic online. He has his own website, which we have links to, as well as links on where to find his books. And we
Yeah.
eagerly await his latest creation, whatever it ends up being.
Einstein's desk too. I don't know what we'll call it, but yeah. So anyway, Janie, thank you. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for all the hard work you've done in helping me make these books as good as I can make them.
Thank you.
Your editing skills are amazing, and but more beyond that, your perception, your advice, perspective on the story is so helpful. Keeps me in bounds and kind of kept me moving along in the right. And so I just appreciate having you as that sounding board. Thank you.
You're welcome. And on that note, I'm going to thank my editing team, because without them, there would be so many things that weren't
Yeah.
addressed the way I.
The only one I have something that I want to pick, have a bone to pick, is with the fact editor person. They always catch me in mistakes.
That's me.
It's like, darn, I thought I researched that. I got that right, didn't I? No, I didn't get that right.
No, that's me. So I am the research editor. I do all the fact checking. So sorry for causing you
Yeah,
stress.
that's all right. I'm glad that we find it. I just, it's embarrassing that I didn't, figure that stuff out myself.
Well, that's why editors are here, is to help make everything work.
Yep.
So, well, thank you.